Hey out there, legal warriors. What do you do if your loved one was recently arrested? What are the next steps? How do you figure it out? What mistakes do you need to avoid? If you're interested in this area of the law, stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear. I'm a defense attorney in Linwood, Washington. My law firm's been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington State for more than 20 years, and I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get the help they need. Now I'm just going to jump right into it. Let me tell you, I handle all of our new people calling us over the weekend. You know, I'm the owner of a law firm for 24 years. Prosecutor for 7 years. And so I'm sort of, my life is defined by helping others. And one of the most confusing times that people have is when they're reaching out to any attorney, including my firm, about someone who just got arrested. 2 people have reached out to me today, as a matter of fact, I think 3 last week. And it's very confusing. People have no idea what to do, the panic in their voice. And there's just almost no information about how to handle this situation. So I'm a lawyer in Washington State, and I'm going to go through the steps that I go through and also the steps that I recommend that you go through if you're in this situation. Somebody just got arrested. Step 1 is you have to figure out what jail they're in. If someone got arrested in a city, like City of Kirkland, they have their own jail. City of Linwood normally has their own jail, but now it's closed because they're sort of rebuilding it. If they got arrested in a county and they're not in a city, then they might be in the county jail. And even if they get arrested in most cities don't have their own jail. They're going to be in a county jail or somewhere like SCORE even. The bottom line is you have to figure out where they're at. And so how do you do that? Well, you can ask the police officer if you were there when they made an arrest. You can call the police department. Hey, if you arrest someone, where do you take them? And if you have a loved one who you don't know where they were then when they got arrested, then you've got a harder task in front of you. Now, the main way we try to learn where someone's in jail, if the person calling us doesn't know, is we get on the computer and start looking up jail registers. You can look up King County Jail Register, or King County Jail Roster, Snohomish County, right? The different cities. And if the arrest just happened, they may not show up right away in the register. It's going to take 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours or more sometimes for it to show up. So the first thing, though, we need to do is figure out where they're at. The second thing we need to do is figure out why it is they got arrested. What is the charge? Is it because we may not know that? Even a call I just took today, the caller knows that the suspect was arrested for assault, but they don't know if it was a felony level assault or a misdemeanor level assault. And we need to know that because there's a well-worn path for how we handle these situations, but misdemeanors typically take a different path than felonies take. And once the suspect showed up on the jail roster, it's ambiguous. Certain jail rosters, it can be ambiguous about what the charge is. So what you can do is keep updating the jail roster to see what the charge is, or get a hold of an attorney who may be able to ask the correct questions to figure out what the charge is. So that's step 2. Step 3 is figure out if there's a bail. Is there a way we can bail or bond the suspect out of custody? I'm assuming that you're trying to help them if you're watching this video about what to do if a loved one is arrested. And so most of the time we don't want our loved ones in jail. So for certain types of charges, there will be a bail listed immediately. For non-felonies that are not a DUI or domestic violence, they will oftentimes have a bail listed immediately. Sort of a default bail is what I call it. Even some DUI jurisdictions will have a default bail listed immediately. And if you know anything about bail, you can get a hold of a bonding company. And if you don't, you can get a hold of a bonding company. I've also got videos on this channel that talk about bail, how to get someone out. Now, more often than not, when we look at the jail roster, there's not going to be any bail listed. It's going to be blank. And what does that mean? It means that it's the type of charge where the suspect is required to have a judicial officer, a judge or a commissioner, look at the situation before they set a bail. Domestic violence charges, felony charges all apply to that situation. For domestic violence, they need to be able to issue a no contact order. For felony charges, they're not even charged. There has to be a first appearance, a second appearance, stuff like that. So you need to look if there's a bail. If there's not one listed, depending on the arrest day, if it was arrested Friday, there may not be a bail listed till Monday. Sometimes a court officer may come in, a judge, over the weekend and do paper court and set some bails to get people out of the jail, but it's inconsistent jurisdiction by jurisdiction. You need to talk to a defense attorney who knows something about how this stuff works at the local jurisdiction. So we need to see if there's a bail, and then if there is, we need to see if we can get them out. The next step is we need to see when there's going to be a court date, because if there's not a bail to get them out, there's going to be a court date, right, when there's going to be a bail set. And if we know when the court date is, we might be able to do something to influence whether or not a bail gets set. If someone is bailed out, then we need to know the court date where they need to show back up for their next court date. It could be a second appearance, it could be an arraignment, but there's probably going to be a court date they need to show up for. There's an exception in Snohomish County. You typically, at the county level, may not have another court date to show up for. Talk to an attorney so they can explain it, because there's no way I could cover all the variations here in this video. So let's assume that there is a court date that's either an arraignment or, more importantly, a bail setting. Then what do we need to do? Well, if we're going to be able to help, we need to get ourselves and other people that might be supportive of the suspect in the community to that hearing, either by Zoom if it's on Zoom. King County felonies have some things by Zoom, in person if it's at a jail court. And the reason why that is, especially in a serious case, is the court is looking and setting a bail amount. Remember, we probably want a lower amount so we can get our loved one out. We'd rather spend $2,000 than $20,000 to get them out, right? The court's looking at not only the seriousness of the crime, we can't change that by showing up, but they're also looking at the suspect's ties to the community, right? Do they have somewhere to live? Do they have ties to the community so they're not a flight risk? Do they have kids here? How many people are showing up in support of that person? Because it's not a black and white decision how much bail is. It's an emotional decision, right? That judicial officer gets to make a determination. The prosecutor wants the moon. The defense attorney wants 0, and the judge gets typically to decide somewhere in between. And it has a big emotional impact on the judge if we've got 5 people there supporting the suspect instead of 0 people there supporting the suspect. And your mileage may vary. You should talk to an attorney. This doesn't apply to every situation, but it's definitely something that you need to know. I think the next step is you have to make a determination if you're going to hire an attorney for your loved one. So sometimes it's a good idea to hire an attorney for your loved one right away. Sometimes it's not, and that does vary. I will say just this weekend before, I probably spent 4 hours with somebody trying to help their loved one in jail. And my strong advice was not to bring us on board just yet. And there were strategy reasons for that unique situation. They turned out to be correct. So just beware an attorney who automatically says, without thinking about it, yes, you need an attorney. Yes, you have to have one. There probably should be some thought about what the strategy is. An attorney who jumps on that too quickly may be an attorney who's looking out for their own interests and not your interests. And everyone has a different style. Sometimes I'm accused of trying to stop people from spending their money. But, I sort of come from that type of, like most of us, are sort of a normal blue-collar background. And so, money doesn't grow on trees. We want to make sure that we're making the right decision in bringing on an attorney, because we also have to worry about, will your loved one accept the attorney that you hire for them if you do hire someone while they're in jail? If you do hire someone when they're in jail, most people are grateful, but not everybody, right? If your loved one is a controlling type or thinks they know it all and they want to make all the decisions themselves, they may reject that attorney. And so it's a conversation you need to have, because the worst thing for an attorney is we spend this time and we get emotionally invested and we go down and we see the client in the jail or something. then they don't want anything to do with us. Right? It's rarely happened in my practice, but there has been from time to time some resistance because they might be mad at the person hiring the attorney because that might be the person who called the police. So that's definitely something that we need to think about. Finally, I don't know where this falls in this list, but I think it applies to the overall situation, is we want to be really careful with jail calls while our loved one is in custody. If our loved one calls us, it's going to be difficult. We can hopefully take a collect call, but we have to remember we should not talk about the fact pattern, the facts of the case on the jail phone, because that is a recorded call. It is not private. And a prosecutor, for the most part, can sit in their bedroom in their jammies and punch in a few things in the computer and listen to these jail calls at a later date. And if your loved one is saying, I wasn't that drunk, I only had 5 beers, that's probably going to come back. Or, I only hit them because of this, that's probably going to come back on us. So you want to say, hey, don't talk about the facts of the case, but you can tell me, what's the court date? What is the charge? You can shut them off if they start to talk about the facts of the case. You can tell them you've got an attorney or you're talking to an attorney, because you can ask how they're doing medically, but don't let them talk about the facts of the case. And same thing goes if you go down to see them on a video visit or something, those things are recorded too. So the only thing that's private is them talking to an attorney, not talking to you. So be very, very careful. And remember, we don't want to panic. There is a total blackout of information to begin with. Even for us attorneys, we have to use years and years and years of experience and updated and recent experience to predict what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. And we still may not be right, because there's pretty much no one to get on the phone after hours or on the weekend that can tell you what's going on. Clerks aren't entering any things in the computer that we can look at for the court. So it takes a lot of experience. So remember, there is no perfect path to follow, but this is a pretty good path that goes step by step by step to figure out what's going on, to figure out where they are, to figure out how to help them, to figure out how to get them out of jail, and also start thinking about what do we want to tell their work, things like that, because, depending on when they get out, they might have to miss work. And generally speaking, it's probably not a good idea to say, hey, my loved one was arrested for a serious crime. I'm thinking, maybe there's some other reason why they're not showing up for work, but that's up to you. So hopefully you found this useful. If so, please like and please subscribe. More people will get to see it, get the help they need. And more importantly, if you got a loved one arrested or somebody's charged with a crime, you can feel free to reach out to my firm. We've been doing this for more than 20 years. We get on board, we'll listen to what happened, we'll identify a way forward, and we will be there for you. Thank you.